Robin Westman, the 23-year-old transgender Minneapolis shooter who murdered two children at a Catholic church, left a manifesto of disturbing demonic beliefs. CBN's Billy Hallowell joins me now. Billy, this is hard to process, hard to stomach. But what were some of his beliefs?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things they're still going through and trying to verify, but it seems pretty clear that many of the law enforcement involved think and believe that this manifesto came from him. Really apparently obsessed with school shootings. There was apparently an image, a shooting target that had a photograph, an image of Jesus on it. There were messages written on the weapons themselves, the term psycho killer. There were anti-Semitic messages. One of them read, 6 million wasn't enough, obviously referring to the Jewish people and the Holocaust. And it just goes on and on. Kill Donald Trump. Very confusing messaging. And from what we know, this particular individual apparently went to that school and graduated in 2017, was a student there from what some of the media reports are saying. So I think one of the big things, obviously, is you want to understand the motivation. What is it that made this person go and do this thing? And one of the struggles is that when you're dealing with evil, when you're dealing with illness, when you're dealing with all these factors, you're not always going to get a clear sense of what that is.
Well, as the father of three young children, this is beyond horrifying. But to me, and I might be stepping on some toes here, I don't think this is just mental illness. I think this is the most clear-cut demonic thing that you can possibly have. And if, people want to say something about that opinion, that's fine. But there, I'm going to say even more controversial things, but there does seem to be a stream of all of these rejections of what the God of the Bible is about. They get grouped together, blended together, and it seems like there is a demonic backing to a lot of this concept. And to me, I think the perfect example is that, why is transgenderism and being against, certain Christian things and being horrifically anti-Semitic, how is that related? I think it's all related. I think at the end of the day, we've done a lot of stories about this, the hatred, not the criticism of the state of Israel, but the hatred of the Jewish people is at its core a hatred of the God of Israel, right? The hatred of the Jewish people is a hatred of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And as you said on his gun, it said 6 million wasn't enough, obviously referring to the Holocaust. He also said extra Jew gas, which, as someone who's been to Majdanek and Auschwitz a couple times, and Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. It is demonic to me. I'll stand on that wholeheartedly. I think I go right to Ephesians 6 for our struggle. And this is, I don't know why this is controversial, why people don't want to talk about this, but for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, that is a inconvenient topic if people want to just play nice Christian kumbaya. I do believe that there is, I don't believe, the Bible is clear that there is a demonic war. Obviously, I do believe Yeshua of Nazareth has defeated that entity. But obviously, Billy, you've actually started movies about the supernatural world. So how should we be processing all of this?
Yeah, everything you just said is so important. We don't want to talk about Ephesians 6. I think that a lot of churches have avoided it, this idea that what is happening in the spiritual realm that you can't see is pouring over into our world. And you're absolutely right. When you look at a story like this, when you look at a case like this, there's no other description for a man who would go up to a church window and shoot through it to kill children than diabolical evil. And so it does feel very much, and you were listing off a number of things, anti-Semitism, all these things that are rejections of the God of the Bible and his covenants with people and what all that is true and good. This individual reportedly also hating himself, right? What does Satan come to do? He comes to kill, to steal, to destroy, to confuse. All of these elements you see in a story like this, and you wonder, my goodness, how can people not see this as the diabolical Ephesians 6 evil that it is? I think as we as we process this, we've got to be praying through it. We've got to be, I mean, you have to imagine when a situation like this happens, okay? Not only is the community devastated, the victims, their families, you have 14 kids who were injured, 3 adults, 2 children dead, all their families. You have the first responders who had to walk into a house of worship and deal with the unthinkable. You have the community. So the church, there's so many layers to it. We got to be praying for them for peace. And, we've got to be coming together to have difficult conversations, right? About how did we get to a place in our culture, in our society, where we are having shootings happen every 2 minutes, stabbings happen, crazy events happen all the time. What is happening to people? And I think you and I probably have a good idea about what we think is happening spiritually, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is, we report the news, but sometimes I think it's important just to sit and appreciate the heaviness of a moment and to grieve with the parents and the families that are involved. Man, what a barbaric day this is. But Billy, I appreciate your time. God bless, my friend.
Thank you.